I think that we're starting to see the end of that range. Happy President's Day. Let's get right into it. The S&P 500 is just little in this weird limbo area right now. The market's been pretty tough this year already. It's been a pretty decent year for me so far. I'll be fully transparent. It's not my best start, but I'm just taking what I can get at this point, spreading myself a little bit too thin on the outside trading world. But as of right now, I am looking at a good watch list to make some good money this week. I think that we have some really great setups that could potentially see a nice return. So let's look at some key levels on the S&P 500. 400 is exactly what I'm watching. You're going to see this little uptrend drawn right here on this daily chart. Boom. We're going to see a breakdown of it. Nice little shooting star candle. Not at the very peak where I would like it to be, but it is in the middle here, so that shows me that there's some sellers at this level. We broke this uptrend for the first time, came down to this 404 level, and now are retesting it. If you know anything about trading, most of the time, I'm not going to say all the time because I could be wrong, and it is wrong by saying all the time, but most of the time when you see a breakdown of a true trend line, you're going to see a retest. So if I see a breakout on something, I always wait for the pullback to retest it before the next launch up for me to get into calls. So same thing, similarly on the put side, I always wait for this retest of the uptrend to get into puts. So now I'm going to look at this little area right here at 408. Seems to be like a little gap fill situation going on here. If I were to zoom in on it, around this 408 bottom of this candlestick from Thursday, 408.25-ish range, that's where I would look for a little bit of a reject. I'm not sure if we're going to gap up above that or not, but I don't expect to go above this. It might be around 409 because it'll be the next day, so the uptrend will come up a little bit. So around 409, I would start to look for some puts, to be honest. If we see some weakness in the market around that 409 level, I'll probably go in on the put side just because of this trend line test to re-break, because I really think that we get to that $400 level. It depends on some of the earnings that we have this week. It's not a massive calendar. I'm looking at Square, I'm looking at Etsy, I'm looking at MELI, but S&P 500 could retest this 409, retest this uptrend, and then get broken down again. So I'm looking at that 400. I'm obviously looking at the 405, and I'm looking at that 409. If it breaks above 410, it's obviously coming back within this 415 range, and we could see some bullish activity. But personally, I think that we retest this 409-ish, 408.50, and then start to reject. So fingers crossed. I don't think that I believe in this rally whatsoever, so I have not been adding to anything long-term in this area. So I'm looking at that level. If it breaks above it, I obviously will switch my thesis. Above 410, I'll see maybe this resistance point around 412, 413. So not a ton of movement that I'm looking at. Unless we reject, we could see all the way down to this 400 support line that I'm really praying for. So same situation on the QQQ. Uptrend was broken. I can draw it real time for you here. So same situation, gap fill up to that 304-ish, 303, maybe even that 304.50 before a reject below. The only thing that I don't like is this is a support line. This is a support line. So it looks like it made a little bit of a higher low. So if I were to draw these and move this over, the support line is sitting right at this level. So a breakdown below 296, 297, then we could probably see that spike down to about 290-ish, maybe 294. But I'm still looking for weakness on the downside. I think that this uptrend was really artificial. I don't really know where it came from. I was following along with the momentum, but I think that we're starting to see the end of that range. So I'm looking for some downside in the Qs and the SPY this week. Obviously TQQQ, good time to sell covered calls if you have this for the long term. I know if you're watching me, you know I have a boatload of shares of these around that 21 level. So I'm going to try and average down a little bit more if it gets below that, which I think it will, but cover calls, baby, collect that income. Looking at NVDA. NVDA has earnings this week as well. Same situation. Artificial pump, in my opinion, could go the other way, but I'm looking at some downside. I'm looking at this $200 level break. So if we break below the support line around 208, could see 200 very fast. So I'm going to be following NVIDIA for a while. I've been watching it for a while. I've been waiting for this down break. I tried to take it here, got stopped out. Tried to take it here, got stopped out. So third time's a charm. I'm looking for the downside on this to that 200 level. I'm also looking at this Tesla level. Massive jump up from 190 all the way up to 209. So I'm going to see if this can continue to break this 214 level, 213, 214 of that high, and then run up to that 220 level. So it looks pretty bullish right here, but if there's any sense of reversal along with the market, then I'm looking for the downside. So Tesla, upside if the market is obviously on the bullish side. That's the only thing that I'm seeing on the upside. Etsy, I have two more for you. I know it's kind of a long watch list today. Just a couple things. It's just a lot of earnings this week, so I just want to run a couple things by you. Etsy has been in this nice little run up for a while, but their web traffic views are down 10% month over month, which is a pretty significant drop in decline. So obviously that's already happened. It might not be stemming a lot of revenue from that web traffic view. So we'll see how they look on their earnings report, but I am looking at these downside Etsy puts. And if you look at Etsy, let's just say $200 or $100 level for a week out or so, hundreds are only $57. So on the bid side, it's a pretty large bid-ask spread, so there's not a lot of volume in these, but man, that IV percentage is only 103% too. So if it really does drop down $30, it's a pretty hefty drop. But I may or may not take that. So just wanted to highlight that on the watch list. Some pretty far out of the money puts. They'd be cheap. It'd be more of a gamble because it's an earnings play, but just keep that on your radar. And my favorite ever stock, MELI, my friends. This might be my favorite time of the year is when MELI is about to report earnings. I get it 4 times a year. How lucky are we? So I'm looking at this bull flag right now on MELI. Look at how beautiful this is. I'm sitting right at that level of that key level of resistance / support. So it was resistance over here at 11.95 or 10.95, 10.96, around that $1,100 level. And now we're sitting right at that $1,100 level. So we're either going to bull flag and break out probably towards this $1,300 and make a ton of money on the call side because that's a $200 difference. Or on the downside, this could really break down and get under this $1,000 level. So could maybe even potentially down to this $950. So if you look at these MELI contracts, you'll see why I love them so much. Only on times that I buy for more time, so I don't get this decayed because there is not a lot of volume on this. But this is the stock that has made me quite a bit of money over the years. So I'm going to look at, what did I say, 950 puts. 950 puts are around $800 a piece. $900 puts, though, if it were to move a lot. So keep in mind the earnings are on Thursday, so you won't start to see that premium spike until about probably Wednesday-ish. So you only got one extra day. I forgot it's Monday already. So these are about $300 to $400 to $500 you could get filled on, but in the monies are $5,000. So if it breaks down below before, last time it was earnings, I missed out on the call side and took the contracts from $300 a piece all the way up to $10,000 a piece at one point. So this stock can move. These premiums can move. I'm not saying it's going to this time, but I'm definitely keeping a high alert watch on it. Their web traffic views are up a little bit. Amazon did get hit, so I'm trying to see if it's going to follow suit with Amazon. If it doesn't follow suit with Amazon, then we could see some pretty major upside with that bull flag right there around that $1,300 level. So if it ends up going back up to retest that $1,300 level, these are around $300 a piece right now in between this bid-ask spread. And like I said, in the monies are about $5,000. So not sure which way I'm going to take. I might strangle it. It all depends on the price action Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But again, wanted to get that on your radar. So I'm really looking mostly at MELI. I'm looking at that SPY 400 level. And if we're bullish, I'm looking at Tesla to break up towards that 220. And obviously the QQQ is very similar to the SPY, so they'll move almost in unison. And then obviously NVDA is another one that I was taking a look at. So quite a few things all over the place, just a little bit of stocks to put on your radar this week. But some of the main ones I want to watch are that NVIDIA breakdown, maybe that Etsy breakdown, and that MELI breakdown. Those are all earnings, very risky. You might just play the earnings run up or run down. And then on the other side, the SPY 400 level looks very strong. And if we're bullish, Tesla 220. So hope that helps out. That's a lot. I know it's a lot, but there's some great data sets coming out this week with consumer sentiment on Friday. We have PCE data, FOMC minutes on Wednesday. So a lot of volatility is possible. Tuesday, I think, could be pretty flat, but might be some time to catch some premium run-ups on some of these earnings plays. You don't have to swing through earnings, but maybe you can catch a nice little premium spike with that IV percentage. So let's see what happens. Hopefully that's not too much of a mouthful or too much to understand, but hopefully that helps out because that's what I'm here to do. So if you need anything, let me know.